The stars above Althera shone like shards of crystal scattered across the velvet darkness. From the observation deck of the royal palace, I watched them, my mind numb with anticipation. I had traveled across 3 galaxies to stand here, on the threshold of a destiny I could scarcely believe. And yet, the very idea of being here wasn't enough to calm the whirlwind of fear and hope that churned within me. My name is Kale Rin, and until 6 months ago, I was a lowly engineer aboard the cargo freighter Orion's Grace, hauling precious minerals across interstellar trade routes. Life had been simple, predictable, and unbearably lonely. That changed the day I encountered Princess Leora. She had been disguised as a diplomat from the neighboring system, but her presence struck me like a supernova. Leora's laughter was a melody that could silence the hum of any starship, and her curiosity rivaled my own. I had no idea then that meeting her would redirect the entire course of my life. It all began during the Meridian Convergence, a rare celestial alignment that only occurred once every 77 years. The event drew rulers and dignitaries from countless star systems to Althera's capital, a city of luminous towers and floating gardens, each garden suspended by anti-gravity fields that glimmered in rainbow hues. Leora had been visiting in secrecy, attempting to observe the convergence without drawing attention. Fate, as it often does, had other plans. I was repairing a malfunction in the primary gravity stabilizers when I first saw her. She was standing on the observation deck, her gaze fixed on the swirling constellations. I remember thinking, why would anyone need to travel so far across the stars just to look at them? Yet, when she turned and smiled, the answer became irrelevant. Her eyes, an iridescent shade of violet, seemed to pierce through the void and into my very soul. "What brings a lone engineer to the observation deck during the convergence?" she asked, her voice soft but tinged with mischief. I blinked, caught off guard. Routine maintenance," I stammered. Though I must admit, the view makes the work seem trivial. She laughed, a sound like wind chimes over a crystalline lake. "Trivial work can be the most important," she said, stepping closer. "Sometimes, the smallest actions ripple through the universe in ways we cannot foresee." Her words lingered long after she had left, echoing in my mind. Over the next weeks, our paths crossed repeatedly, sometimes by design, often by accident. We shared quiet conversations in hidden alcoves, discussed philosophy, the mysteries of the stars, and the politics of our respective worlds. I learned that Leora was fiercely intelligent, compassionate, and yet bound by the chains of duty. Her mother, Queen Mariel, ruled Althera with an iron will tempered by wisdom, and she had already arranged a suitor for her daughter, a prince from the distant system of Sereth. But Leora had other ideas. I had no right to dream that she might choose me. I was nothing in the grand scheme of interstellar politics, a simple engineer, without wealth, lineage, or influence. And yet, the more I saw of her, the more I realized that destiny often chooses those least prepared for it. The tension in the palace was palpable as the convergence drew near its zenith. The grand hall had been transformed into a celestial panorama, walls of transparent alloy showing the stars themselves, with platforms floating midair for the honored guests. I had been granted permission to observe the ceremony from a service balcony, far from the scrutiny of the nobility. My heart pounded as I watched Princess Leora take her place beside her mother, the queen's regal gown shimmering like liquid starlight. Queen Mariel's presence was commanding. She had the bearing of one who had ruled countless crises, and yet her eyes softened briefly as they met her daughter's. "Leora," she said, her voice echoing across the hall, "you stand at the threshold of a choice that will shape your future and the future of Althera." Leora inclined her head respectfully. Mother, I know the expectations placed upon me, but I must follow my own heart. Gasps rippled through the assembly. I felt my chest tighten. Could she really? Queen Mariel's gaze swept the hall, resting momentarily on each dignitary, each potential suitor. Finally, her eyes locked onto the balcony where I stood, invisible yet fully visible to her perceptive gaze. She raised a hand, signaling silence. Let it be known, she said, her tone carrying the weight of generations, that the choice of my daughter shall be honored. Leora, who is it that your heart has chosen? The room fell silent. I could hear the subtle hum of anti-gravity stabilizers, the faint crackle of energy shields, and the collective breath of the assembly. I swallowed hard, unsure if I could even move. Leora stepped forward, her hand extending toward me across the hall. Kale Rin, she said, her voice steady and unwavering. I have chosen him. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. I was frozen, unable to comprehend the sheer magnitude of what had just happened. Then, instinctively, I stepped forward, crossing the distance between us in a few strides, propelled by disbelief and joy. The assembly erupted into murmurs, some shocked, some outraged, but none could deny the authority in the Queen's next words. So it shall be, Queen Mariel declared, her voice resounding like the crash of a supernova. Kale Rin, engineer of the Orion's Grace, you are recognized as the chosen companion of Princess Leora. Let none question the will of the heart. I felt a wave of relief and exhilaration crash over me, but it was short-lived. Duty and intrigue were never far behind in royal courts, and I soon realized that being chosen was only the beginning of the challenge. In the days that followed, I was introduced to the responsibilities that came with my new status. I was no longer just an engineer. I was a public figure, the companion to the future ruler of Althra. I attended diplomatic briefings, learned the intricacies of Althran law, and trained in the art of court etiquette. But most importantly, I spent time with Leora, learning the depths of her mind and heart. One evening, as we floated among the gardens suspended over the city, Leora confided in me. Kale, she said, brushing her hand across the bioluminescent petals of a floating lotus, I chose you not because of who you are now, but because of who you are beneath it all. The heart must see what the eyes cannot. Her words touched me deeply. I had always believed my life insignificant, but Leora's faith in me transformed that notion. Together, we navigated the treacherous waters of politics. There were whispers from rival suitors, veiled threats from nobles who resented a commoner rising to such prominence, and even subtle sabotage attempts against me. But through it all, Leora remained my anchor, her confidence in me unwavering. The final test came during the trial of constellations, a ritual older than memory itself. Each suitor, or in my case, the chosen companion, must navigate the labyrinth of stars, a complex structure that tested intellect, courage, and the alignment of one's moral compass. Failure was a public disgrace. Success was a testament to worthiness. The labyrinth was more than a physical challenge. It was a mental and emotional gauntlet. Hallways shifted with the alignment of distant stars, and illusions manifested from the depths of one's fears and desires. I faced visions of my past, my lonely years aboard the Orion's Grace, the loss of my parents, the doubt that had always gnawed at me. But I also saw flashes of the future Leora, and I could build together, of the worlds we might touch, of the lives we could save. At the labyrinth's heart, I found a crystal pedestal that bore a single inscription: only the one who acts with a heart unclouded by fear may claim the light of destiny. I reached out, feeling the energy surge through me, and a beam of light shot upward, signaling my success. When I emerged, gasping and disoriented, Leora was there, her expression radiant. Queen Mariel, observing from above, nodded approvingly. "You have proven yourself," she said simply, but with weight that settled on my shoulders like a mantle of stars. The coronation of Leora's choice was held on the peak of the tallest tower, with the swirling nebulae of Althera stretching endlessly around us. The ceremony fused tradition with the marvels of advanced technology, holographic projections of the ancestors, a choir of synthetic voices harmonizing with live musicians, and the lighting of the starfire beacon, which would illuminate the city for a full Altheran year. As the queen placed a circlet of crystalline alloy upon Leora's brow, she turned to me. "Kael Rin," she said, "you are no longer merely an observer of Althera's destiny. You are a part of it. Honor this responsibility, and you shall find your place among the stars." I took Leora's hand, feeling the warmth and certainty of her presence. "I will," I promised, "with all that I am." And in that moment, amidst the luminescent towers and the floating gardens, I understood that choice was more than a matter of duty or power. Choice was love, courage, and the willingness to face the impossible together. The queen had honored her daughter's heart, and in doing so, had changed the course of the galaxy itself. As we descended from the tower into the cheering throngs, I felt a serenity I had never known. The road ahead would be fraught with challenges, political intrigue, interstellar diplomacy, and the ever-present shadow of those who envied our union. But for the first time in my life, I did not feel alone. Leora's hand in mine was a promise that together we could navigate any storm. The stars that had once seemed distant and cold now felt like friends, guiding our path. The galaxy was vast and the future uncertain, yet I knew one truth that eclipsed all fear. Love, once chosen and declared, was a force more powerful than any fleet, more enduring than any law, and brighter than the combined light of 1,000 suns. And so, under the shimmering constellations of Althera, with the Queen's blessing and my heart tethered to Leora's, I stepped forward, not just as Kael Rin, engineer of the Orion's grace, but as the one chosen by the princess herself. The journey was only beginning, but for the first time, the stars felt like home. The coronation of Leora's choice was held on the peak of the tallest tower, with the swirling nebulae of Althera stretching endlessly around us. The ceremony fused tradition with the marvels of advanced technology, holographic projections of the ancestors, a choir of synthetic voices harmonizing with live musicians, and the lighting of the starfire beacon, which would illuminate the city for a full Altheran year. As the queen placed a circlet of crystalline alloy upon Leora's brow, she turned to me. "Kael Rin," she said, "you are no longer merely an observer of Althera's destiny. You are a part of it. Honor this responsibility, and you shall find your place among the stars." I took Leora's hand, feeling the warmth and certainty of her presence. "I will," I promised, "with all that I am." The crowd erupted into a roar of approval, cheers echoing through the city and reflecting across the floating gardens. For a moment, the weight of the entire galaxy seemed to lift, replaced by the dizzying beauty of this moment. I glanced down at the citizens of Althera, traders, engineers, diplomats, and scholars, all watching, some with disbelief, others with quiet hope. I realized then that my journey had transformed not just my own life, but perhaps theirs as well. Later, as the celebrations moved to the palace gardens, Leora and I walked among the bioluminescent flora, their colors shifting like living auroras. "Kael," she said softly, "tonight is more than a victory. It is a promise." "What kind of promise?" I asked, careful not to sound too naive. "That even when the world is uncertain," she replied, We will face it together. No matter the challenges, no matter the opposition, we will choose each other every time." The weight of her words settled on me, profound and real. I thought back to the lonely corridors of the Orion's Grace, to nights spent staring at distant stars and wondering if life would ever hold more than survival. Now, those stars felt close enough to touch. They had witnessed my journey, my courage, and my heart, and they had guided me to her. Over the next weeks, we began to navigate the complexities of our new roles. Queen Mariel allowed me a rare degree of autonomy, perhaps recognizing that the strength of Leora's choice was as much in the support she received as in the decision itself. I learned the subtle art of diplomacy, studied the histories of countless star systems, and engaged with nobles and ambassadors who initially doubted my worth. Slowly, respect was earned, not inherited. Yet the real triumph was personal. Each night, when the palace was quiet and the floating gardens shimmered in solitude, Leora and I would talk for hours about our dreams, fears, and the future we wished to build together. She confided her hopes for reforms in the Royal Council, for outreach to neighboring systems, and for creating opportunities for those who, like me, had once been overlooked. In those conversations, I saw a future not just for us, but for Althera and beyond, a galaxy where choices were guided by heart as much as duty. One evening, as we stood on a balcony overlooking the city's luminescent skyline, Leora turned to me. "Kale, do you ever think about the day we first met?" I smiled, recalling her laughter and the curious light in her eyes. "Every day," I admitted. "I never imagined that a simple observation deck could lead to this." "This," she said, squeezing my hand, "is more than destiny. It is proof that even in a galaxy of stars, the smallest choices, courage, honesty, love, can create ripples that change everything." And she was right. That night, Althera felt different, not because of the coronation, nor the grandeur, but because of the unity we had created. Citizens began to speak openly of hope, nobles began to collaborate, and even distant systems took notice of a kingdom where the heart's voice held true authority. Months passed, and we grew into our roles. I became not only Leora's companion but her trusted advisor, her confidant in matters of the state, and, above all, her partner in navigating the vast, uncharted galaxy that lay ahead. We initiated programs to advance science, foster education, and strengthen interstellar alliances, using our unique perspectives to bridge worlds that had long remained distant. Yet even with these responsibilities, we never lost sight of the bond that had brought us together. One quiet evening, beneath a canopy of artificial stars in the palace garden, Leora whispered, "Kale, I once feared choosing love would bring danger, that it would make me weak in the eyes of my mother, my people. But now I see. Choosing you was the strongest act I could have ever made." I pulled her close, feeling the resonance of her words in my very being. "And I said, will spend every moment proving that your choice was not only right but inevitable. Together, we can face anything the universe throws at us." As Althera's twin moons rose in unison, casting silver light over the floating gardens, I realized something extraordinary. Home was not a place, nor a title, nor a crown. It was the presence of someone who believed in you, someone who chose you despite the odds. Leora had chosen me, and in that choice, I had found not just love, but purpose. Years later, when tales of our journey were told across the galaxy, from the trade corridors of Sereth to the academies of Velis, we became known not merely as royalty or diplomats, but as symbols. Symbols of courage, of hearts guided by conviction, and of a love that could withstand the weight of worlds. And while the challenges never ceased, political intrigue, interstellar conflicts, and personal trials, they were always met together, hand in hand, hearts intertwined. And so, beneath the endless expanse of stars, amidst the floating gardens and luminous towers of Althera, I finally understood what destiny had meant all along. It was not the hand dealt by lineage or circumstance, but the choices we made, the courage we summoned, and the hearts we trusted. Queen Mariel, standing beside us in quiet pride during our first joint address to the people, whispered softly, "You were her choice, Kale, and now you are a part of her world." I looked at Leora, her eyes shimmering like the nebulae that surrounded us, and felt a serenity I had never known. The galaxy was vast, the future uncertain, but one truth eclipsed all fear: love, once chosen and declared, was a force more powerful than any fleet, more enduring than any law, and brighter than the combined light of 1,000 suns. And under Althera's starlit sky, with the Queen's blessing and Leora's unwavering hand in mine, I stepped forward, not just as Kale Rin, engineer of the Orion's Grace, but as the one chosen by the princess herself, ready to face a universe of infinite possibilities together.